have an opportunity in Texas to pick up 5 seats. We have a really good governor, and we have good people in Texas. And I won Texas. I got the highest vote in the history of Texas, as you probably know. And we are entitled to 5 more seats.
In America's democracy, your vote doesn't matter, but your politicians do.
President Trump is urging Texas Republicans to reshape the districts in order to flip 5 U.S. House seats ahead of next year's midterms.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott is now ordering the civil arrest of Democrats who left town to bluff a vote on the redrawing of a congressional map.
We're not going to let Donald Trump take our votes. This is our state. This is our home. This is our country.
What's happening in Texas is the first battle of a cold civil war, and it's not over land or resources, it's over your vote. I have birds, by the way. I usually move them, but I didn't this time, and I really hope they don't ruin this recording. On June 9th of this year, so only a couple months ago, the New York Times reported that Trump's political team urged Texas leaders to alter, also known as gerrymander, their district lines in favor of the Republican Party. Texas officials were told by our administration, by people in our administration, to manipulate districts where citizens were voting for the Democratic Party. They were encouraged to manipulate these district lines to ensure a Republican win, regardless of what the citizens actually voted for. This is where gerrymandering becomes an issue, because lawmakers who create the maps that determine the districts have a huge influence on how each district will vote. The whole idea of gerrymandering is that you have someone, say I am for party A, and I'm creating this map. There's a conflict of interest there because I want party A to win because I'm a member of party A. So I can draw a district. If I know that, say, all these people in this area votes for party A, I'll draw my district around those people to ensure that that district votes party A, that the majority of that area will vote for my party. And that is exactly what Trump asked Texas to do. There are only 4 districts in this graphic, but imagine there are 5. He wants to turn every single one of the 5 districts to benefit his party, which is the Republican Party. Now, the Texas governor, Greg Abbott, was essentially reluctant, according to initial reports by the Texas Tribune. He was resistant to Trump's ask, but after a phone call with President Trump, Abbott called on lawmakers to create new congressional district lines in July, last month. These maps are usually drawn every 10 years, but Abbott cited, quote, constitutional concerns. And he alluded to, or he actually called out racial gerrymandering as one of those concerns with the current district maps. And this was his reason for doing this mid-decade redraw. It's a little bit convenient because these concerns only came, or Abbott only spoke of these concerns after this call with Trump and after Trump asked for the maps to be redrawn. So in response, Texas lawmakers drew up a map that does, in fact, add these 5 Republican seats. The Republican Party was initially, with the current maps, holding 25 of the 38 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives. But with this proposed map, they would go from 25 to 30 out of 38. That is to explain why this whole thing even matters in the first place. If the proposed map made by the Texas lawmakers was used in last year's election, the 2024 presidential election, this is what the results would have looked like. The majority of Texas is Republican. It is a red state. But you can see some of these gerrymandered areas that tend to vote a specific way. Now, this heavily differs from what the actual results were with the current maps that are being used. If you look at this map, there is a much larger area that voted blue. So looking at these maps side by side, you can see why people are outraged by this proposal. All these blue areas disappear because the district is drawn to displace these Democratic votes into other areas that are majority red. So their vote doesn't count anymore. You see their voices being changed in these new maps because you have these Democratic districts that are no longer Democratic because the people who proposed these maps manipulated the district lines to create more Republican votes. And our administration asked for this, and this is why people are so outraged by this. Their votes are being silenced by gerrymandering techniques that are being used to give our president what he wants. Why? Because the president asked them to. This is a huge conflict of interest on our president's side. And it's very concerning because we have Texas redrawing their district lines to give the president exactly what he wants despite what the people want. And this map has caused such a stir in Texas, around the nation, and citizens and lawmakers all over the place. It's caused a huge mess. And the Texas House was going to have a vote on whether or not this new map should pass and be the new set district lines for Texas. And it didn't happen because the Texas Democratic leaders in the House fled the state. Over 50 of them fled the state. They left Texas. They left Texas so that they would be absent for this vote, so that the vote couldn't happen. And they did this because they wanted to break quorum. And that is essentially a requirement of at least 2/3 of Congress to be present in order for a vote to even happen. So they thought, we're the minority, we're losing, so why don't we just flee so that none of us are there, so that nobody can vote on this map. And it worked. So they fled the state and this vote was stopped. The entire thing was brought to a halt. And so without this vote, the map couldn't pass. So in response to the Democratic lawmakers breaking quorum, civil arrest warrants were signed for each of these lawmakers.
I'm Heather Hayes.
And I'm Steve Eager. It's 9 o'clock. Dozens of Democrats flew to other states, including Illinois and New York. Republican House Speaker Dustin Burrows signed off on civil arrest warrants, but there's not much that can be done with the members in a different state.
Civil arrest warrants. Civil arrest warrants were signed for these lawmakers. And Trump even said that the FBI might get involved in these arrests of these Democratic representatives, our political officials, for refusing to vote on a map that is gerrymandered to our president's and his political party's favor. And I know people feel very strongly about this, whether it's one way or another, but that alone has to be concerning. It has to be concerning because there are lines being crossed. And that line isn't just gerrymandering. The issue is not just the gerrymandering in the situation. Gerrymandering happens on both sides, whether it's a left state or a right state, Republican, Democrat, it doesn't matter. Gerrymandering happens all over America. You have Texas becoming more red and Illinois being the most blue state that it can possibly be. But the most concerning thing about the situation is not that Texas is gerrymandering its district lines to favor the Republican Party. It's that they're doing so at the request of our president. You have the president asking states to redraw district lines in favor of his party, and they do it. And then the representatives, the political officials who represent the people and their voices, they do what they feel like they need to do to protect the interests of the people they serve, and in response, you have arrest warrants signed for them. And not only that, but then FBI involvement threatened by the president who started this entire thing. In addition to these arrests, Governor Greg Abbott of Texas has threatened to fire the top Democratic lawmaker, and the ones who fled to Illinois faced a potential bomb threat at the hotel that they were staying at. It almost doesn't even sound real because it's so extreme. It's so crazy. It is so insane to think that this stuff is happening in a country that prides itself on democracy. And these extreme reactions show that this entire thing isn't about representation. It's not about democracy. It's about a blatant attempt at a power grab. This battle between the Democratic lawmakers, the Republican lawmakers, the Texas governor, all of it reflects a collapse of democracy. The foundation that America was designed to protect. And everyone, regardless of what side of the political spectrum they're on, should be outraged. But they're not. The obvious gerrymandering, the arrest warrants, and the potential removal of political officials from office, this is all being celebrated. It's all of it. All of it is being celebrated. Not just by lawmakers, not just by opposing lawmakers, but by voters themselves.